So I was in Atlanta and I was preaching for Louis Giglio at Passion City, and we went out to dinner afterwards, and he gets real close to my face and he says, "Hey man, I really want us to go low." And he's kind of like, he's in my grill. I'm like, yeah, for sure. Someone gets that close to your face and they're serious, it's like, what are you gonna do? So he's like, no, and he's explaining what go low is, and we're gonna be humble, we're gonna be men of God, men of character. I was like, for sure. And then, the car pulled up and I left, and I was like, thank God that's over. And then I get on the plane, I start flying home, and I really feel like God starts saying, hey, I sent him a second time. Book of Jonah here, because you need to go low. And the first sign that you got pride is when you don't think you got pride.
Hey crew, it's Adam. You're listening to The Conversation. Today we are at episode 272, and our guest today is someone that I have followed for years. He might just be one of the coolest pastors in our country, but today we are talking about something that affects every single one of us. It's pride. Today we are talking about pride. Friends, wherever you are today, just know I'm so glad you're tuning in. And in these next 28 or so minutes, my hope is if you're trying to figure out how to make a difference with your life, or you're walking through an unpretty part of being human, I want you to know that you are not alone. Well, before we go any further, and more than that, I want to give a huge shout out to our partners. Each week, these partners help make the conversations possible. Our first partner today is Tommy John Clothing. Let's go. If you haven't worn Tommy John, you haven't fully lived. I'm wearing Tommy John right now, which is maybe TMI, but Tommy John has thousands and thousands of 5-star reviews and over 20 million pairs of Tommy John sold. Whether it's undershirts, underwear, modern polos, you are gonna absolutely love Tommy John. My current favorite are their pajamas. I'm actually excited about cooler temperature so I can start wearing my Tommy John PJs. To find out more or to go shopping, check out TommyJohn.com. Again, that's TommyJohn.com. But friends, here is the best part for all of you that Tommy John is a partner. Every single week for the rest of the year, we're giving out two $50 gift cards to Tommy John Clothing. Two $50 gift cards. All you need to do is enter one time and you are entered for the rest of the year. How do you get entered? It's so simple. First off, go and subscribe to The Conversation, whether it's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's the first thing. Secondly, go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Adam A. Weber. Again, that's Adam A. Weber. Seriously, just do those two things and then let me know about it. And as a result, you will be entered for a chance to win for the rest of the year. The last 4 recent winners that I've drawn, Stephanie B., Ken L., Jenna P., and Stephanie S., all have won over the last 4 weeks. How cool is that? Our second partner today is another amazing partner, Vern Eide. Vern Eide Mitsubishi is a growing employee-owned company that strives to deliver dreams and transform lives. And their goal is excellence in everything that they do. Friends, I'm to the point now that if I hear of anybody looking for a vehicle, I'm like, don't look anyplace else. Go to Vern Eide. Like, I am proud that I've bought my last 3 vehicles from Vern Eide. One of the coolest things is getting text messages from you saying, hey, Adam, who should I talk with? Getting DMs, who can I email? I'm looking for a car. Friends, whether you're looking for an Outlander like I drive, or you're looking for an Acura, Ford, Chevy, GMC, no matter where you live, they'll ship it to you. Go visit verneide.com. I wholeheartedly believe in them, verneide.com. Okay, so today's episode, I was pumped to connect with Chad Veach. He is a guest that I've been trying to get on The Conversation for probably 3 or 4 years. Chad is the pastor of Zoe Church in LA, and he might just be one of the most likable human beings you will cross paths with. Honestly, he's a guy that I've just been so intrigued by. He's a pastor of celebrities out in LA because that's where celebrities are, is in LA. But just for many reasons, I've been curious to connect with him. Today, though, again, as I mentioned, we're talking about something that impacts all of us, which is pride. And so Chad and I talk about how to recognize pride and what are some of the specific pitfalls of pride, especially for leaders, and how to fight back. I had two favorite parts in this interview. The first one where Chad talks about his interactions with Louis Giglio. That was powerful. Secondly, where Chad talks about how he personally fights back against the pride in his own life. On that note, as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. So, Chad, we typically hear a person's highlight reel. Are you willing to share a current unpretty part of your life? Whether it's stress, grief, jadedness, whatever, wherever you want to go, a current unpretty part.
I've got all of them. I get in every stream.
No,
I got three more on top of that if you want to keep going too.
No, it's perfect. Is there one specific that you're willing to share about?
Well, I'm just trying to choose my words carefully here. So we recently had a staff member transition, and it's fine. Staff transition happens. But what I heard the person say was so egregious, so outlandish, so wild that when I spat it back to the person, like, hey, just so I hear you correctly, what you're saying is, and they were like, no, 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 no. So that made them cry because they were like, I'm so nervous and feel so bad, I'm not able to articulate. And so they retold the story with some more details and color that helped us make sense. But now it's just like, I just feel so bad that this is not coming out the first way you wanted it, and I didn't hear it right. And that you just, you have these moments where you go like, I don't want anybody to feel bad. I feel bad that you feel bad, and you feel bad that I feel bad. It's just like, man, I don't want this for anybody. We want everybody to win. We want everybody to do well. And so that was probably one of the most recent where you're like, oh man, it's hard enough to say you're going. Now we've made it a little bit bumpier, and I want to make it smooth for you. How can I smooth it over for you? So that's one that steps out to me right away where you're just like, dang, I feel bad.
Yeah, Chad, I feel like it's like relationships just in general are messy.
They're messy.
Anything that you're like, if I kind of moving forward, anything that you learn from that, like is, because I feel like you're speaking right to me. Anything that you're like, okay, next time I need to do this, that, like, what was the takeaway from that?
Well, I think, as far as the incident goes or the conversation, I don't know if I could do anything better because this poor sweet girl, she just was kind of so worked up that she was too nervous to say it right the first time or what she wanted to really say.
Yeah.
And so I think the takeaway for me is just always trying to be, to the best of my ability, someone that's approachable, someone that's not intimidating. And I get sometimes by position, someone talks to their boss, that can be an intimidating conversation. But I want it, to the best of my ability, put people at ease, whereas like you don't have to think through your head what you're saying to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll just highlight just something that take away for me, honestly, is the fact that you gave her the opportunity. Hey, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. This fool, I would have just heard it incorrectly and I would have ran on that, what in the, like getting upset and frustrated. And it's like, oh no, you actually didn't mean that. I just like whether communication breakdown just took place. And so I think that's even in itself says a whole bunch about yourself of just like, hey, I just want to make sure you're hearing this correctly. I'm hearing this correctly.
Well, I think, my dad used to say growing up, people only remember the way you treat them on the way out the door. They don't remember their entire experience with you. They only remember, how did you treat me on the way out? So I just want to be fragile and responsible with people on the way out.
Yeah, isn't that good? That's so good. Chad, the Cliff Notes version of your story. Where are you from? Background, how you got to ministry? Share that really briefly.
Pastor's kid from Seattle area. Kind of ran from the call of God on my life till I was about 16. I'm like, all right, I'm all in. Go to Bible college in LA at 18, moved down to Los Angeles, got hired at a church when I was 19, became the youth pastor, served there for almost 6 years, and then came back to Seattle for 10, and then was as a youth pastor, and then went back down to LA to start a church. So I've only ever done LA or Seattle my whole life, and I've done now almost 17 years in Los Angeles. And so I love LA. It's got my heart. It stole my heart. I love this, the people, the city, the way it moves, the way it operates, and we're having a lot of fun doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and you're married, kids. Share that part in your church. Like, just give us like a nutshell of what's its heartbeat. Just share that too.
Got married at age 28. My wife is 25. We've been married 16 years. And we got married. We had our firstborn. Our firstborn has special needs. We found out at 3 months that her brain, for whatever reason, just never formed. And so that was a long journey of getting strong and getting healthy out of that. Just kind of getting our wind back.
Yeah.
And we had to do some tests to make sure that this wouldn't happen again. So praise God, we were able to have 3 more kids. In fact, it is my next born, my oldest boy turns 11 today. It's his birthday.
I love this.
So shout out to my DO double G. And yeah, so we got 4 kids. Our church, we moved to LA with 2 kids then, and a dream or a vision, a mandate. We started a church in our living room with 11 people, and we were able to pioneer and build, and now, like you said, we just opened a building. So it's been a thrill ride.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Chad, just knowing you from afar and not knowing you personally, a few words when I think about you. First off, I think smooth. I mean,
Oh, wow. Thank you.
that stash has a life of its own. And then like I think about, honestly, these are like I was like, what words come to mind? Smooth, kind, and the other word and I thought was joy filled, and
Thank
and it was kind of interesting. And the other word was leadership. Those were the 4 words that came to mind when I thought about you. So I also know, so you've been in ministry a long time, your oldest child, and just what you've walked through there. Like, how have you kept your joy? Like those 2 things, like longevity and ministry, I feel like it'd be the opposite. Curmudgeon is what you'd think you'd say. And so it was, but like, so how, like what, because I also got to believe that you've had a few haters in your day.
Man.
And so what does it look like to keep joy? What does that look like?
Few haters in my day, and I'm just talking about the girl that just quit. Come on. I'm kidding. I just think, don't take yourself too serious is a big motto for us. It's a big value. You know, I heard someone say one time, you should just join in and laugh with everybody because they're all laughing at you. So rather than being the guy that's like, uptight, it's like just you can have a go at yourself. You can poke fun at yourself. You can
Yeah.
laugh. It's just a lot more fun around the water cooler if you can do that. So I've just tried to do my best to self-feed. This morning I got up and I read my devotional I've been reading since I was 19. We were in Zechariah, we were in Psalm, and then we were in Luke today.
Love it.
And that is my favorite part of the day, with a cup of coffee and just kind of self-feeding. I think this job requires so much self-feeding. What is a leader? A leader is a feeder and a leader. So I find those 2 things are really difficult if you don't lead and feed yourself. And so I've tried to, from the start, just how do I focus on the one thing I can control? I'd rather be frustrated with me and try and focus on leading me than be so focused and frustrated on trying to lead others. I know how hard it is to try and lead this guy.
Yeah.
So, when I put the onus there and the ownership there, I really believe in extreme ownership, taking ownership. So if somebody leaves, what could I have done better? How could I have handled that? What could I do? Instead of blaming them, I find so many leaders they're having so much fun playing the blame game, but it doesn't take you anywhere. It doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't move the ball down the field. So let's just try and get better ourselves.
Anything else? Anything else? That's so good. Anything else that's like just kept you from jadedness? Like honestly, like therapy, like a crew of
Yeah.
like 2, 3 friends, like anything else. Cause I even last night we had a small group over at our house. We had 28 people in our living room. It's all these high caliber people. And one of the questions came up it's a marriage group. And one of the questions came up, like, when I get home, I feel like I give just it's all my leftovers because I'm just been pouring out all day. And we started talking about jadedness from there. Anything else specifically that's just like, because you're right. If you're as a leader, you're constantly pouring out. Anything else that's been helpful?
Well, I think, in order to get yourself in a real tough bind and into a place of toxicity, I think it takes a cocktail of bad decisions. It's never one decision that destroys somebody's life. It's a bunch of bad stuff. It's just like, you know, fill in the blank, but it's like it's a great recipe, right? And let's just play law of opposites. Same for health. To be strong or to have longevity or to have effectiveness, it's not like I exercise. I read the Bible. I do this one thing and this is my solution. I like Acts 2:42 so much because it just gives me like a peek view into the early church. So what were they doing? They're breaking bread, they're meeting in the houses, they're studying the teachings, they're giving themselves to prayer. That gives me enough to go. They're making a few decisions. So the result of that is explosive growth, but
Yeah.
they've got a few things going on. So things that have helped me, daily Bible reading, a prayer life has really helped me. I last night, because I couldn't in the morning, I went and did a workout class at 6:30, and I sweated my face off for the glory of God. And my wife is like, was it a good class? I said, it doesn't matter if it's a good class. I had to get the devil out of me. I had a McFlurry Sunday night. Satan's got to leave. So I think you gotta have exercise. You got to have friendships. I just saw this thing the other day that said, this is wild, but this is from the world now. But so in context, this is from culture. It said a guy needs 2 nights a week with his friends to stay healthy. So I sent that to my wife real fast. But is it true? I don't know. My point is, you need a lot. You need the Bible, one of my favorite scriptures, beloved, I pray your soul may prosper in all things. So what is the all things there? Physically, financially, emotionally, and spiritually. So
Yeah.
God cares about every area of my life. So if God cares about every area of my life and wants me to prosper, I've got to put energy and focus into every area of my life.
No, that's good. Thank you for letting me kind of go down that rabbit trail a little bit. Again, just kudos to you. Like, really, it was cool just to think about those words, and I'm like, gosh, how does
Oh,
he
thank
how
you.
does he keep that? Because that shouldn't be that should be the norm, but often it's not the norm. Chad, your newest book, I bet you think this book is about you. The subtitle: How to Avoid the Pitfalls of Pride and Gain the Rewards of Humility. I want to focus on the first part of your subtitle: How to Avoid the pitfalls of pride. Why that? And more specifically, like, has that been a part of your own story? Why are you writing on that specific part? Like, share about that.
Well, I'm always just trying to write about what I'm learning about. I heard someone say years ago, don't export what's not working at home. If it's working at home, go ahead and export it out. So I'm always just writing books about what God's dealing with me. What's he speaking to me? What's he saying to me? So I felt like a few years ago, God started to really deal with my pride and my ego, my motives, my intentions. And so as I was confronting that, I started to deep dive in that. I started to study that, preach on that, and eventually write on that. I thought this is a message that I don't just need to hear. I think it could be a message that a lot of people need to hear. If it's encouraging and convicting me and healing me from some things, maybe it could simultaneously try. That's that freely you have received, freely give
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So I was in Atlanta and I was preaching for Louis Giglio at Passion City, and we went out to dinner afterwards. And we're kind of at the valet waiting for the cars, and he gets real close to my face, and he says, "Hey, man, I really want us to go low." And he's kind of like he's in my grill. I'm like, yeah, for sure, totally. Someone gets that close to your face and they're serious. It's like, what are you gonna do? So he's like, no, and he's explaining what go low is, and we're gonna be humble. We're gonna be men of God, men of character. I was like, for sure. And then, the car pulled up and I left and I was like, thank God that's over. And then a few months later, I was back and we went out to breakfast. And I was in Atlanta and it said, "Can you go to breakfast?" We go to breakfast, a great couple hours breakfast, and I'm leaving. And then he gets in my face again. And he goes, "Hey, man, for us, I really want us to," and I was going to finish his sentence like, "Let me guess, go low." And he gives me the same speech. And at first I was like, man, old people can't remember what they say. He already gave me this speech. Yeah. So I'm just kind of nodding like, yeah. And then I get on the plane, I start flying home, and I really feel like God starts saying, "Hey, I sent him a second time. Book of Jonah here, because you need to go low." And the first sign that you got pride is when you don't think you got pride. Like, I'm good. What? I'm good. I'm a Bible reader. I'm a prayer warrior. I'm a shepherd. And so God really just started to deal with me, and that's the result of all this is this book and a transformed view on the pitfalls.
Yeah.
Because I think that if maybe he didn't get in my grill, maybe I could have gone down a path. What is pride? Let's look at arrogance, conceitedness, a puffed up view of oneself,
Yeah.
trusting in you, your gifting. Humility, I like that. Humility is an accurate view of self. So seeing myself as who I really am. Humility is not thinking less about myself. It's thinking less about myself. Now look at the difference. Pride walks into the room and goes, "Here I am." Humility walks into the room and goes, "There you are." So it's just framing my life as Jesus, the humble servant.
That's good. Do you, so would your wife had agreed? Would she have agreed with Louis at that time? Would it like
Oh
your
man.
parents or anybody else, like kind of looking back at that time? Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's not talk to my parents. Let's not talk to my siblings. Let's not talk to my spouse. Don't talk to my kids. You know what's so crazy is now we'll get into an argument, and my wife is like, "Wow, isn't that interesting? The guy that wrote a book about pride is being prideful." It's like pride to me is not like a day-to-day battle. It's not even an hour by hour battle. It is a minute by minute leaning into humility, and we can easily flip over to what, let's just call it, a better word might be sinful nature or sin, because that's that pull. I was born into pride. I was born into sin. So I got to deliberately, intentionally, consciously choose humility.
That's so good. Chad, for you personally, are you a confident person or are you an insecure person? And can it apply to both people? Like, do you see that in both situations?
Well, I think, a compliment or a praise to God is you walking confidently before him.
Yes.
So you can be uberly humble and uberly confident.
Yep.
So it's an accurate view. So let's see myself in an accurate view. I am called. I am loved by God. I am chosen. I am anointed. I am favored. Walking in that confidence is walking in an accurate self view. I know who I am. I know who I'm not. I'm not going to boast about things that are outside of me. I know what God's called me to do. Forget the things that are behind. I'm pressing for the things ahead.
Yeah.
By my God, I can scale a wall. I can leap over an army. I just know who I am in Christ. So, yeah, I think the thing about walking in humility, to me, it's a signal of strength or confidence.
Yeah.
Because it's going like, I have received so much from God. I can recognize all of this is from God. And it's actually not even for me, it's for somebody else. Freely receive, freely give. Out of you, rivers of living water will flow. When you're prideful, you can't let that living water flow through you. Why? Because it never got in you.
That's good.
So humility for it to flow out of you is the first demand is receiving.
Yeah. That's good. A little bit of a tangent. How do you where did that confidence come from? Like a God confidence, like because I'm naturally an insecure person. Even last night I was driving when I had two of my kids in my vehicle, And I'm like, I don't know if this is encouraging or not. And I was like, your dad is still wildly insecure. And
Yeah.
my oldest, my senior, is like, really? And I was like, yeah. Like, yeah, I said something earlier today, and I just feel kind of foolish with how I said it, and like I wish I would have been more clear, all this kind of thing. Where does that come, Chad? Like, just like
I,
has that been something that you've always had? Like, where does that come from?
thankfully, I'm really thankful that, and I recognize not everybody has the DNA or the makeup of this, but I'm really thankful that I was born into a family of confident people, confident parents. And I was in a nurturing environment that raised me to believe that I could become anything and do anything. And so I recognize that as a gift from my parents. So it's nature and nurture,
Yeah.
DNA plus environment. So yeah, I've always been, and the only kind of insecure time I had in my life was about in 2004. I had a season of disobedience with the Lord. And that led me down an experience and a path of what I saw firsthand of what the shame and guilt and condemnation will do to your confidence. It
Whoa.
took me a while to get back that. Come on. I
Yeah.
had it, and then I disobeyed the voice of the Lord and I lost it. So I would never do that again.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Back to pride. So what's the solution? What's the antidote? Humility. How do we? Yeah. If we're starting to see people, whether it's Louis Giglio getting 2 centimeters from our face, or our wife or our coworkers, how do we do?
Yeah, I think that, the ego is so tricky. Pride is so terrible because it says, don't say sorry. Don't say I love you. Don't admit that you need somebody. Don't tell your kids that you're wildly insecure still.
Yeah.
That pride is just, and we got to be careful because in a narcissistic society, narcissism wins. So the culture of this world says pride is the trophy. Look at you, if you are self-made and you get revenge and you shame other, that's the best. You got the biggest podcast off that. You got the biggest following. You
That's
could
true. My gosh.
you could kill it off that. But you got to be careful. It's a lie. See, the thing about pride promises everything that only humility can deliver.
Ugh.
Pride promises you fortune. Only humility can deliver that. Pride promises you honor. Only humility can give you that. Pride promises you legacy. Only humility can give you that. So you got to combat the lie that pride is telling you. And when you get confronted, recognize, oh, yeah, that's right. If I don't listen to the people that love me enough, I'm going to go down a path that's going to destroy my marriage,
Yeah.
my business, my relationships, my children, anything in my path, pride will destroy. But if I heed and I humble and I go low and I listen and I apply,
That's
I have a
good.
shot.
That's good. So listen to God, listen to others. Any other specific things that you would say, like, this is how to kind of radically address pride?
To me, the most important thing, and one of the most practical things I talk about in the book, is daily Bible reading. I
Yeah.
cannot overemphasize this practice. Daily Bible reading to me is because I don't know anybody in the world that wakes up and goes, "Hey, just looking to get corrected today." I, you know what? I'm hunting for a cup of coffee and a good rebuke. No, I don't know anybody that's like that. But I'm telling you, you read that thing. The Bible is that thing. You think you're reading it, it's reading you. And what does it say? All scripture is God breathed. Theo Nusas, the breath of God. All scripture is God breathed. And it's useful. What is it useful for? Correcting, rebuking, training in righteousness so the man of God can be fully equipped to do every good work. So when I get to that thing's like, girlfriend, you ain't talking like that. You ain't treating those people like, no, you're not. Buddy. Come on. Woo woo. And so I love that Bible reading has saved my life from the pitfalls of pride. And I read this thing, it's like looking in the true mirror of who I am. That's right. I'm a servant. That's right. I'm a messenger. I'm an ambassador. That's right. I am called by God to do something great for God. That's right. I am a holy nation. I'm a chosen generation. I'm the head. It tells me who I am.
Chad, you're preaching. My gosh, right. Even
I
this
was
morning.
just going to ask if you had a keyboard player.
Oh, serious? I'm not kidding. This morning I sat. I just spent some time. I'm reading through Pete Scazzaro's Day by Day. That's a devotional. Man, that thing will kick your butt every day of the week. So I did that this morning, and then I had like 40 minutes right before this, and I could just tell haven't been walking with Jesus today in my soul. Let's just put it that way. So I sat at Starbucks, and I'm listening to the book of John, the old Message translation. Put some Eugene Peterson in your ears. And the whole time I'm sitting there listening to it, I'm like, I'm just so grateful for God's word. I'm like, and that sounds like the most pastorish thing that's been said.
I love it.
But it's
I
just
love
like, I just need his word. Like, Lord, I need you. I need your constant guidance. I need your constant correction, because this guy is like wrestling an alligator every 5 seconds. I'm just so quick to whatever, and I'm just so thankful for God's word. So that's good stuff. Chad, I last couple of questions I just want to ask. Like, so you're pastoring a church out in LA. These are pastor questions. What are you seeing right now in the church? I know that's a weird question to ask. Like, is there something that you're like, as someone I feel like who's got a pulse on culture and Jesus at the same time, is there anything that you're seeing as far as like, this is what I see God getting behind. This is what I see connecting with people. Hey, church, maybe stop doing this. Is there anything that comes to mind with that?
Wow. Well, I just think, the thing that's been hit the hardest, I feel like in the last few years, is volunteer culture. And, just trying to get volunteers to love God and serve God the way that they did pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
I think every church is just trying to figure out, how do we treat our volunteers well? How do we invest in them, disciple them? For every city from South Dakota to Los Angeles, the harvest is plentiful. That's clear, and it will always be. But simultaneously, just as in Jesus' day, you look around, and you go, man, the workers are few, man. We don't got that many workers. Well, and so the demand that Jesus needed is the demand that we needed, which is leaders.
Yeah.
So the first action item he directed us to is to prayer. Pray to the Lord of the harvest that he'll talk to people for us and he'll send forth the laborers. God will do all the recruiting, is what he's saying. We're talk to God, and God will, just as he decides and determines who gets every spiritual gift, he is determining who he's going to send
Yeah.
his laborers to. So I just think, what really connects with me right now is figuring out, how do I develop systems in my culture, in a culture of volunteers, to where God, the Lord of the harvest, would send forth the laborers. And so I think that, what I'm trying to figure out for us in LA, and, really for the, church at large, is how do we, so many people are like, man, the church treated me like a tool. They treated me like they just treated me like I was just a tool. Well, Ted, you were at the altar and you asked God to use you, and that's what a tool is used to do. So you can't really get mad at us. But I understand there's, Timmy was mean to you, so that's a separate conversation. My point overall is, we got to get ready for the Teds. We got to get ready for the people that are like, I want to serve, I want to be involved, I feel inspired watching this worship leader. I feel inspired watching this kids director. I feel inspired by this social media director, and I want to do that. So how do we get people to come and work the harvest field? Because it's plentiful.
Well, shout out to Ted. It used to be Connor. Now it's Ted.
Yeah, it's Ted, man. Haggard, you get it. I'm kidding. Stop.
The other part of that, is there anything that you're like, hey, church, maybe stop doing this? Like, pastors, maybe, can you just stop that? Anything
I
there?
don't know. When you ask that question, it makes me think of Chris Hodges recently. He was talking to a group of pastors, and he said, it's time for us as pastors to make the church famous more than we're famous. And I was like, wow, that's really good language. Like he said, so many of y'all are really self-promoting more than your church promoting. And I thought that was a great challenge. That's great language for us as young guys to realize. Am I promoting myself more than I'm promoting my church? The church needs to be in front of us.
Yeah.
And so I would say, hey, for us, and I'm first included, is like, how do we make the church the big idea, not us?
Yeah. Is that something you struggle with? Like,
I don't,
is that
I
something
don't,
you wrestle with?
I don't think for me personally, I don't feel like, oh man, I really struggle with that. I want to be so known. I think again, social media is nebulous. It really does matter whose hands it's in. But I think the point of social media, or the point of messaging, is you have to know what your message is and who your audience is. And so for me, the way that I see social media or messaging is going, I want to talk to somebody that will not step foot in my church, but I can speak to them in their on their phone. It's so funny. The other day I was texting with a guy in our church. He's a really wealthy kind of business guy, and haven't seen him in a while. And I said, "What's up, man? How you doing? Checking in. Love you." Pastoral text. And he wrote back, "I'm so sorry. I got this new job I'm working on, and blah blah blah." And he said, "But don't worry. I've been keeping up with the messages on Instagram." And I said in my head, "Well, the messages are on YouTube." But but those little sermonettes, that's his church. So I think we have to speak to people. The thing about social media or self-promotion is I am way too old and I got way too many problems to try and judge your motives.
Yeah.
I have too many things going on in my life to try and guess another pastor's motives. I'm going to go ahead and work on mine
Yeah.
and wrestle mine and get deliberate about my mission and my values about what I'm going for.
Well, crew, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Chad Veach. A huge shout out to you, Chad. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for our partners, both Vern Eide and Tommy John Clothing. Don't forget to enter for one of those two $50 Tommy John gift cards. Just do those two simple things and let me know about it. Lastly, but not leastly, thanks to every single one of you who listens to the conversation. I do not take it lightly. Have an awesome rest of your day.